I'll next demonstrate how to add lightning bolts from multiple shots into a single image. And I'll just demonstrate this for these two shots, but in theory you could add lightning bolts from several different shots. And so first I'm going to select both of these shots and again go to Edit in, Open as Layers in Photoshop. And now in theory you could add in the lightning bolts in the same way that I did the meteors previously, but for lightning bolts there's actually a much easier way of doing this, and I'll show you that in a second. But first, since my tripod was on marshland, it moved a little bit between these two exposures, and so they're slightly misaligned. And I've already attempted to auto-align these images, and Photoshop isn't able to properly auto-align these. And so I'm going to attempt to roughly manually align these, and the most important thing is to align the areas near the lightning bolts. And so basically, these mountains are what I want to focus on aligning properly. And I can see that the mountains are just a little bit lower in this shot than they are in this shot. So I will select the Move tool and move this layer up just a little bit. And I may need to move it over to the right about 1 pixel. And now the mountains are looking pretty well aligned. Some of these objects down lower still aren't quite aligned, but I'll show you how to deal with that in just a bit. And so now that I've roughly aligned these layers, I can simply change the blend mode to lighten. And now the bolts from both of these images are in one image, and so that's incredibly easy to do, and it would be even easier if your tripod didn't move at all between the shots, as you then wouldn't have to align them. So you can literally do this in seconds. And the reason Lighten Blend mode works so well here is because it uses only the brightest pixels from each image. And then since the lightning in each of the shots is going to represent the brightest pixels, it will automatically add in the lightning in both shots. And the reason that I didn't do this with the meteors is because there are also stars in the image and they're moving during the exposures. And since the stars are also going to be the brightest parts of the image, you'll get double stars in the photographs. And so I'll now zoom in on this image. And it looks pretty good overall, but I am sort of seeing these buildings being duplicated here rather than having a single building. And so I can fix that by simply masking out that area on either of the layers, but I'll go ahead and mask it out from this layer. And as long as I'm not masking out any of the lightning, I'm still going to be preserving the lightning in both of these shots. And so I'll just put the opacity at 100%. And in this case, I'll keep the hardness at 100% as well. And then I could just quickly paint. You can see I'm getting rid of doubled up buildings. And then I could double click on this layer mask and feather it just a little bit, just to make sure that the hard edge of the mask isn't adversely affecting the image in any way, and I don't think it is, but I'll feather it just in case. And so now I've successfully added all the lightning bolts into one shot. And if I had stars visible up above the clouds in this image, I could, again, just mask out the stars from one of these layers. And there will usually be clouds behind the lightning itself, so you usually won't have to worry about stars being behind the lightning. And of course, when I'm shooting lightning, I don't know where the bolts are going to end up in the image. And so in this case, I obviously did a much wider composition than I needed. And so I'm just going to go ahead and crop in the image so that the lightning is much more prominent. And so this will obviously reduce the size that I can print this image at, but I think it's definitely worthwhile here as it makes for a much better overall composition with it cropped in like this. And I'll just zoom in here on the lightning just to show you that it has pretty much perfectly blended it in to the image with only the Lighten Blend mode.